Thunderstruck. Adjective, shocked and amazed by the power of carnival fun. It's what happens when you ride Bolt, the world's first seacoaster. When you island hop till you drop.
Thunderstruck!
When you book 4 massages back to back. Back to back. Get Thunderstruck starting at $289. Carnival. Choose fun. Cruises are in U.S. dollars per person, double occupancy. Taxes, fees, and port expenses additional. Restrictions apply. Full details on carnival.com. Ships registry, Bahamas, Panama.
At Acuity Insurance, we believe that when you let your heart take the lead, amazing things happen. Possibilities become plans. Startups get started. Ideas on napkins turn into brick and mortar. When you lead with your heart, you build a business you're proud of and a life you love. So lead with your heart. We'll protect it with ours. Discover business, home, and auto insurance at Acuity.com.
Acuity, a mutual insurance company and other companies. Not all products available in all states.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of DFS Today. This is your Sunday, January 16th edition. I am your host, Santino Cacone, and we have a nice, quick 4-game day on this, broken up into 2 slates. We have a showdown to begin with, and then 3 games later on, 1 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2 at 8 p.m. There's also that night slate if you wanted to break up those last 2 games. But that first game tips off at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, same time as the NFL playoffs. Very interesting there. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's get this Sunday showdown right out of the way. We have at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time the Phoenix Suns taking on the Detroit Pistons. In the injury report here, we have Jeremy Grant, Frank Jackson, Isaiah Livers, Ronnie Magruder, Chris Smith, Frank Kaminsky, Abdul Nader, Dario Saric, all out. Cam Johnson is questionable. Kelly Olynyk now doubtful. Very close to making his return after a months-long absence with a knee injury. On the spread, we have a 216 game total, and the Suns are a whopping 12-point road favorite. Start with the Suns here. Looking at the showdown slate, obviously everybody is a little bit pricier. Cam Johnson questionable. That is something to keep an eye on. At only 6'4" as a captain or as a utility, very solid price tag. If he plays, he's probably going to get a solid chunk of minutes. If he doesn't, there's more minutes for Jay Crowder, who's been taking advantage of the extra opportunity there the last couple games. He played as over 31 minutes in 4 of the last 5 games. The last 2 games, 35 and 31. And he's provided really solid value in those last 2 games. He was 7 of 14 shooting against Toronto. And then he grabbed 11 rebounds against Indy. 35 and 27 fantasy points, 2 of his better games on the year. So if Johnson doesn't play again, Jay Crowder, very, very into it. If Johnson does play, I'll probably still have both of them in my lineup because of the matchup. But one or the other, I like them better if one plays and if one doesn't play. Campaign in this matchup, the 12-point road favorite. Campaign might get a little extra run here. And at only 4,400, don't mind finding him in my lineup if I need to. But we'll go back to the top. Booker, Ayton, Paul. I think they're all in great spots. Ayton's going to be in a very, very good spot. I love his price tag at 9.2. And even as a captain at 13.8, very doable there. I'll probably have a lot of exposure to him. Booker, Paul, take your pick. I prefer Booker, but obviously he's a little more priced up, especially if you put him in your captain spot. And Paul's just very steady. I think high 30s points, low 40s, right around there. Booker has the higher upside, but he does cost $1,200 more as a utility and then $1,800 as a captain. So I prefer Booker, but if I don't have the money, then Chris Paul is very solid. Drop down from there. On the other side of the ball, I'll have more of the exposure. Cade Cunningham would be the lone guy that would be an option for my captain spot on this side. In his 1 game against Phoenix, he had 19 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds, a block, a steal. Did pretty well. Shot 8 of 15 from the field, made 3 threes at only 5 attempts. So he did really well against them. And again, they're still missing a lot of guys. Frank Jackson just went right back into the health and safety protocols. Killian Hayes doesn't do too much. He should carry the load offensively here. And at 12.6 as a captain, I think that's a fair price tag. 8.4 as a regular salary. Really solid. I probably will have more exposure to him than Paul if it comes down to it, or I'll have both of them. I want one of the guards on Phoenix and Cade in here as well. Outside of him, probably not too much exposure to Sadiq Bey. I think the matchup is just tough. And at 8.2, again, I'd rather just have Cunningham. Diallo's a little bit priced tough. Trey Lyles is a guy that I'm looking at. If Kelly Olynyk does ultimately get ruled out, Trey Lyles at 7K as your utility is a solid option here. And so is Isaiah Stewart. They're both going to be split in time, but one or the other is going to get the majority of that. We saw Isaiah Stewart. When he's not in foul trouble, he had a very solid game in the last one. In his lone game against Phoenix, he had 36 fantasy points. He had a double-double with 12 and 14. Only one block, but he'd been blocking a lot of shots lately when he's been playing. So he has doubled at least 2 blocks in 5 straight games. So we can expect a little bit more there. As long as he stays out of foul trouble and has the energy up, I think 4.8 is a very solid price tag to take a chance on him. Corey Joseph as well. There's a lot of backcourt depth that's not there. 5.4, I don't mind taking a chance on him. I do prefer Stewart of the two, but with Frank Jackson out again, there's a solid time there. And then the other Jackson, Josh Jackson at 3.8. If I'm digging very, very low, he has 3 straight games of at least 20 fantasy points, and he's under 4K in a showdown slate. That's very tough. That's a very solid price tag, so I'll take a shot at him as well. I'll have more people on the Detroit side, but the Phoenix side is where I want to spend up. Ooh, had to sneeze. The Phoenix side is where I want to spend up. All right, now let's jump on over to the main slate, what everybody is here for. The first game on the docket is the early game on the main slate, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Houston Rockets at the Sacramento Kings. On the injury report, we have Usman Garuba, Tristan Thompson, Robert Woodard, all out. Rashawn Holmes, Damian Jones as questionable. I believe they said Holmes should be good for this one, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. It's the first game on the main slate, so more than enough time to figure that out. We have a whopping 238 game total, which kills the other 2 games game total by double-digit points. And the Kings are 5-point home favorites. On the we'll start with the Rockets side of the ball. This is going to be a very, very high-scoring game, as Vegas thinks. We have 2 teams that are subpar for to be nice here. 2 subpar teams. The one game Christian Wood played against these guys, he put up 43 fantasy points, 26 points, 8 boards, a block, 2 steals. His last few games, his last 6 games, he's averaging 38.5 points, which is right around value. I think this is just a very solid matchup, especially if Holmes doesn't play. And even if he does, he's been out of the lineup for so long that I think this is just a solid matchup here. We know Singin is back, but he's not priced too high to where I don't need to.
Thunderstruck. Adjective. Shocked and amazed by the power of fun on Carnival. Riding Bolt, the world's first roller coaster at sea, Brian got thunderstruck so hard, his 93-year-old grandmother felt it 3,000 miles away in Nebraska and immediately booked a cruise. Hooray! Get Thunderstruck starting at $289. Carnival. Choose fun. Cruises are in U.S. dollars per person, double occupancy. Taxes, fees, and port expenses additional. Restrictions apply. Full details on carnival.com. Ships registry, Bahamas, Panama.
Be afraid of that price tag there. Kevin Porter Jr. at 6'5", not too bad either. He had a 40-point outburst in the last one, 16.7 boards, 8 assists. But outburst is key because he's been having a few of them lately, and I don't know if I trust him here. The price tag, he can beat that, but probably lean off of him because of that. I do like Eric Gordon at 5'1". We know that the Kings have struggled a lot against shooting guards in the past couple years. Eric Gordon, 3 straight games of at least 20 points, 4 in the last 5, and continue to go there. The upside isn't crazy. I don't think he's going to do the 31 points, 3 boards, 3 assists like he did against San Antonio a couple games. But he had 23.5 points against these guys the other night in 29 minutes, shot 6 of 9 from the field. I expect a couple more shots, a couple more assists, maybe a steal in this one, and then that could bump up to close to 30. So I like Eric Gordon in this one. Not too many others. I might take a chance at Garrison Matthews if he's starting. He only played 22 minutes against these guys in the last one. I don't think he's going to start, but he has the upside we've seen to hit a lot of shots from 3. And this game is projected to be a super high-scoring game, so I will take a look at him there, but that's likely it. And possibly Jalen Green. He took 18 shots against these guys 2 nights ago. He only hit 5 of them, and he brought back 20 points, but if he's going to see that type of volume, he has 4 straight games of double-digit shot attempts. If he's going to see about 15 shots, that is a lot to like for a guy at 5K in a matchup like this. So keep an eye on him as well. All right, on the other side of the ball, I mentioned Richaun Holmes, Damian Jones are both questionable. Obviously, we'll need to see what happens there. That'll change some things in the front court. We've been seeing Meadow and Bagley get a ton of the run together in the front court. That will likely change, and they'll go back to splitting time, which hurts both of them. So definitely need to know the availability of Richaun Holmes and Damian Jones. If Holmes does play and he's ready to go 30 minutes, 5-3 and in this matchup is just super cheap. I would love it. At 5-3, if he's ready to play, start 30 minutes, okay, sign me up. If he's not ready to go yet, Bagley and Miru at 5-6 and 4-5 are really solid plays. They're both coming off some nice runs here. Meadow only played 13 minutes in the last one, but before that, he had a 14-7-4 game with 4 stocks, and then put up 21 points there. So there's, and then in the game before that, in that one that I just mentioned was 37. So there's a lot of upside in that 4-5 price tag if he's going to get a ton of run. And Bagley had what was likely his best, not likely, what was his best game of the season last night, or the other night against Houston. He had 26 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks, took 20 shots, made 12 of them, and hit both of his free throws. 48.75 fantasy points. That was easily his best game of the season. And at only 5'6", if he's going to get 33 minutes again, that type of run, he has back-to-back games of over 30 minutes. If he's going to keep seeing that, that is a lot to like, and that's not a bad price tag. And he already shown that he can very much blow up in this type of game. So definitely keep an eye on him. Looking at Holmes and Holmes' status there. De'Aaron Fox, 8-1, another price tag that's right on the cusp of expensive price tags, but he just put up 50 points against these guys, nearly 20 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. At only 8-1, I think we can once again look at him. Maybe he doesn't put up that much, maybe a couple less assists, couple up rebounds, but I think 40-plus points is well within reach for him one more time, and his price tag isn't bad. Another guy, Buddy Hield, he only made 5 of 13 shots, but he still put up 19 points and 6 rebounds. Only had 1 assist, 1 steal. Good enough for 32 fantasy points, but under 6K at only 5.7 for him. He'll be in my player pool as well. Harrison Barnes I might give a shot to, but I like too many guys. But Harrison Barnes, if Holmes is out, would be more appealing to me at 6-1. He also had a very solid game. This is just going to be a really solid, fun game to have some stacking here with what is easily the highest priced or the highest game total of the night. All right, jumping on over to the first game of the late game. Utah Jazz taking on the Denver Nuggets. On the injury report, we have the Nuggets haven't submitted their injury report as of yet. They did play last night, so we will see who's on that. I can say Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. are out. J. Michael Green, Austin Rivers, Bol, possibly. We know PJ Dozier and King are also out. So we'll see about, I would assume, unless somebody sits on the back end of a back-to-back, that Rivers and J. Michael are the 2 names that we're looking at here, who's in, who's out. But outside of that, on the Jazz side, we have Azubuike is questionable. Gay, Gobert are both available now, and Jared Butler, Elijah Hughes, Hassan Whiteside are out. All right, we'll start with Utah. All right, with Gobert back, no Whiteside, he should be playing a lot of minutes if he can go, especially in this matchup against the Joker. First matchup against them, he had 23 points, 16 rebounds, had up 44.5 fantasy points. Him and Jokic both have had some success in this particular matchup. I mentioned two people near Gobert's price tag that I'll probably attack more. Wood, Fox in the first game. I will attack a little bit more. Gobert missed some time here. Coming back from protocols, getting his conditioning. He hasn't played in 13 days now. Last time he played was the 3rd of the month. So he missed pretty much the whole 2022 calendar so far. So right there, I probably won't have much exposure to him at 8,500 and knowing he's going against Jokic. So I will look more towards a Mike Conley, a Bogdanovich. Wait, I didn't say the spread in this one. I didn't. 224 is the game total, and the Jazz are 3.5 point road favorites. This is the lowest spread of the night by 1 point. There's only a couple games, so not too much to go around. I should say of the night of the main slate, because that first game is very low. Yeah, I'm looking a little bit at Conley, Clarkson, Bogdanovich at 6, 5'9", 5'5". The guard play here is what's key. I didn't mention Mitchell. He's very high priced. But the guard play in this matchup, you can expose a little bit on the Nuggets side of the ball. All these guys haven't had blow-up games in the 2 games against Denver, but I don't mind taking chances at the I shouldn't say all of them, but I don't mind taking chances at this particular group of very reasonably priced people. Bogdanovich did blow up against this team. He is averaging 41 points in his 2 matchups against them. He's averaging 25 points per game, 7.5 rebounds. We know that the rebounds are an outlier, so I don't know if that 40.5 point is sustainable, but he is scoring at the against these guys, and you can't score against them. So I think a little bit of that is going to trickle down a little more to Mitchell, Conley, Clarkson. So that's why I don't mind taking a chance at those 3 guys in the mid-tier range, lower mid-tier range. One of them is going to have a very solid game here. And that's likely where I sit with the Jazz, with Gobert coming back and a couple other people starting to ramp up here. On the other side of the ball, the Nuggets. Last game they put up 133 points against a bad Lakers team. But they've had some non-scoring games out there, so that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, we'll start with Jokic because he is the heart and soul of this team. He's averaging 58 fantasy points against the Jazz in both games, 25, 13.5, 8.5 with a block. He's just fantastic. At 12K, if we're going to go to the Super Saiyan tier, I'll pay for him, but no one else is really in his territory. The next highest is Karl Anthony Towns. Steph Curry's out for this one. He would be the second highest, but Towns at 10.3 is the closest price tag to Jokic. If you have the money, obviously you go to Jokic. He could put up 60 points. He's averaging 58 fantasy points against this tough Jazz team. But if not, it is okay. I think we can look, depending on who's in, who's out, at people like Monte Morris, who didn't have a great game last night. Bones Highland really went off, but they didn't have to play too much. Monte Morris only played 22 minutes in the last 2 games because the Nuggets blew them out. After the Nuggets lost to the Clippers in that real bum fest type of game, it was 85-87 where they were crushing them, and then they blew it. They have a whopping 273 points in the last 2 games. So huge wins both games, and Morris only played 22 minutes each game. Price tag really didn't change, but I don't think he's going to have much ownership because people are looking at him scoring a combined under 31 fantasy points in those 2 games. I don't expect this game to be a blowout like those last 2, so I think the price tag is solid there. Will Barton at 5'9" is another mid-tier guy who can have some success here. He's averaging 34 fantasy points in both games against this particular Jazz team, so I don't mind going there as well. And that's probably it. We'll see if anybody else changes maybe Zeke Naji starts or gets extra minutes. He has 46 minutes in the last 2 games, and he's been playing really well. A lot of that, obviously, garbage time. They won by 32 points and then 37 points in the last 2 games. So a lot of that is garbage time, but he's looked really good. If he earned himself a somewhat larger role because J. Michael Green's out again, that'll change some things. But if not, you can totally ignore him. Jeff Green would be a guy you can look at 38, but really don't want to go there. I think Monte Morris, Will Barton, the 2 guys that I'm looking at the most, and obviously Jokic. All right, jumping on over to the last game of the night. We have the Golden State Warriors taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'll start with the spread because I forgot it on the last one. 225 game total. The Wolves are 3-point home dogs. They're getting 3 points in this one, even without Curry. On the injury report, we have Curry, Draymond, Moody, James Wiseman, all out. Gary Payton, the second, is questionable. On the Wolves, we have Jordan McLaughlin, Leandro Balmero are out, and Jalen Noel is questionable. He's expected to return in this one. All right, jumping on. We'll start with the Warriors. They are the away team, and you can immediately look right in that mid-tier. Wiggins, Thompson, Porter, Poole. Without Dre, without Curry, these guys are going to get a ton of usage. Porter Jr. has been starting. Maybe he hasn't been playing a ton of minutes in the last one, but even in 19 minutes against Chicago when they blew them out, they also got blown out by Milwaukee. So I'm going to, just like I said about the Monte Morris, who has only played 22 minutes combined or each in the last 2 games, Porter played 15 and 19. They got blown out by Milwaukee, and then they blew out Chicago, so they didn't really have to play. But he still, in 15 minutes against Milwaukee, had nearly 19 points. In 19 minutes against Chicago, had over 37 points. So the minutes will be there if the game is close. I expect this game to be a little bit closer, even without Curry and Dre. I don't think it's going to be that big of a blowout. So Otto Porter Jr. certainly in play for me. Jordan Poole at 5'4", he had a 32-point game in the last one, 22 points, 5 assists, and a rebound. Took 19 shots. The volume will be there. The minutes should be there. And depending on Gary Payton's availability, which is questionable right now, more opportunity will be there because Gary Payton Jr. would be another play for me at 4,300. But if he's not there, Jordan Poole gets extra minutes, extra responsibility as the Sato point guard. So I really like him there if there's no Payton as well at 5,400. Wiggins at 6'6". We know the minutes should be there. He even in those 2 blowout games, he still played 20 minutes each in those 2 games. And he's didn't take as many shots, but he's been playing really well on all ends of the floor. So I don't mind him here, especially without Curry and Draymond Green. There's got to be a lot of more playmaking for him. Klay Thompson, just a guy. I really don't want to go to him at 6'1", but without Curry, he might take another 18 shots like he did in his debut. I do prefer a Poole. I do prefer a Wiggins. I do prefer a Porter on similar price tags to him, though. Kevon Looney, 4,800. There's just a lot of solid value here. We saw him put up 2 points in the last one and 41 a couple games before that. So we know the upside is there, and they'll probably have to play him with Towns on the other side. So that's something to keep an eye on at only 4,800. But again, my favorite 3 are Wiggins, Porter, Poole, and we'll see about Payton Jr. Or Payton II if he's in or out. That helps Poole if he's out, and he looks pretty good if he's in. We'll start at point guard. All right, a lot of value on the Warriors. On the other side of the ball, the Wolves are going against a Curry greenless Warriors team. So a lot of potential to like in this game. Towns is 10-3. He is the second highest price guy on the slate. He actually had 45 fantasy points just about in the first meeting against these guys, and he didn't even hit 20 points. So that says a lot about his upside in this one. I do really like him. There's no Draymond Green. Kevon Looney is not as versatile of a defender as Dre. So I really like Towns in this one. Russell's going against his former team. He's going against the guy he got traded for, in Wiggins, pretty much. He had 32 points in the first game against these guys, but He's going to get a lot of work to do. We saw Anthony Edwards put up a whopping 48 actual points against the Warriors in the first meeting, 6 boards and 5 rebounds and 67.5 fantasy points. He is certainly in play. I do prefer him over Russell, even though I mentioned that revenge narrative type of stuff. He didn't really play for the Warriors too long for me to kind of say it's a revenge narrative. He went to go play with his best friend, pretty much in Karl Anthony Towns. So I do like Towns. I do really like Edwards. The matchup's going to be really, really good, and I'm saying really a lot. But those two are easily the best plays on this squad. Jared Vanderbilt does get a bump because there is no Dre on the other side as well. But I'm going to spend my money up on this team and go for the huge upside here. If you're sticking to the mid-tier, yeah, Vanderbilt I like better than the rest of the guys on the squad, but I'm going to stay very top-heavy on this squad. All right, that does it for our episode. And before I go, I just want everybody to know, if you already haven't, if you've been listening to the show, you definitely know, but we have a new fantasy partner here at Sports Ethos. Brand new daily fantasy partner. That is Thrive Fantasy. Prop up with Thrive Fantasy on their mobile app or at thrivefantasy.com. Use code ETHOS when you're signing up to get a 100% deposit match bonus on your first deposit up to $100 plus either 2 or 4 free game tickets to play. Pick player props on the biggest names playing every night. Score points when your props hit. And the players with the most points win a share of the nightly prize money. So check it out. It is awesome. If you like player props, if you like DFS, this is your go-to place. All right, friends. Let's jump on over to the player tiers before we head on out of here. We'll start with the expensive tier, and only 3 games. There are quite a few for this. Like I mentioned, I really like Towns, Edwards, Fox, Wood. There's a lot of guys, surprisingly, for 3 games, but I will stick with Karl Anthony Towns for my favorite. Edwards, really like him. I think they're going to throw some kitchen sinks at him though in this one, but Towns, I like spending up for Towns in this matchup, especially without Draymond Green. Or I think he's just super safe. As far as mid-tier plays, there's quite a few of them. I think Jordan Poole, depending on Gary Payton's availability, will be very solid for me, and I will have a lot of exposure without Curry here against Minnesota. Just a very solid matchup, 5-4. Holmes could be in there. We'll see. At 5-3, I really like him too, but I don't know if he's playing yet. He's currently questionable, so that is something to keep an eye on. And favorite punt play of the night, favorite value play of the night could be Gary Payton. I don't know. He's questionable, so we won't say him. But there are a couple other people. I mean, I guess if you wanted to throw out there, you can. I would prefer, again, the Gary Payton, but we just don't know if he's playing. If he's not, we'll throw out Monte Morris at 4,800, a little higher priced. Hasn't really played much in the last 2 games, 22 minutes each, but those were 2 massive blowouts. I don't expect that to happen again. I think he's going to bring back value in this matchup, and I'll have some solid exposure to him. All right, that does it for today's episode of DFS Today. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we will catch you again tomorrow. Peace.
The following message comes from Data IQ, the platform for everyday AI. Let's face it, the potential for positive change with AI is huge, but seeing that value is hard. AI-driven growth is about organizational transformation, not just technology. And today's businesses struggle with the complexities of bringing AI initiatives to fruition. That's where Data IQ comes in, infusing a culture of working with data and AI every day and at every level of the company. Whether solving for the mundane like automated forecasting, Or what is the optimal number of widgets to buy? Or undertaking moonshots that push the limit of today's technology to grow your organization and innovate? That's everyday AI. Join more than 45,000 people worldwide across banking, insurance, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, retail, and more who are driving results with Data IQ. Visit dataiku.com to learn more. That's DATAIKU.com.